Hey, Jagged here. Before we get into the video, if you've liked my content, smash that sub button. And I also stream live on Twitch most nights, so check me out at twitch.tv/jacket. My links will be in the description. Let's get into the video. Alright, so you are here for my Season 1 minionmancer build. Now, I want to go over a few things here today. We have a little bit to talk about, and I'll make sure we have some jumping points for you down in the description below. So, some things I want to talk about is kind of an overview of how I came about developing this build. We're going to show some gameplay off. I'll have an overview about some important things like the skill tree, the Paragon glyphs, gear, legendary powers, and some little tips and tricks I got for you as well. We'll go over the Season 1 mechanics, how the hearts interact, and then I'll give you my closing thoughts with some endgame viability strats and a rating overall. So, some things I do want to just start with here being that overview process here. So, some of my philosophy with this build all started with looking at what we had in the Book of the Dead as we were leveling up. So, we looked for things that had damage increases, things that did big damage, just as a flat amount. Things like testing the Reaper damage versus the Skirmisher damage, even though they say they deal 30% increased damage. And then we went from there. So we looked at all those damage increases. So there were a few things that stood out. Like I said, the Skirmishers had a 30% increased damage, but it wasn't multiplicative. It was just 30% on top of what the Defenders were doing. So overall, the Reapers ended up doing the most damage because they had a two-handed weapon. They also did AoE, so that was very good to find out. The next thing we looked at was the mages. The mages have a 40% multiplicative increase, which was a phenomenal multiplier. This is an insane amount, and we ended up using these for quite a while, determining if it was between this or the cold mages with the blizzard power. See if they met, that blizzard made up for that other 40%. Spoiler alert, it did not. And the last thing we have here for all the damage is the Bone Golem does AoE and taunts, which is very useful. But we could do 50% damage increase for the Blood Golem, as well as vulnerability with the Iron Golem. So there are a few interesting things with the Golem we could go through. So all in all, we had a lot of options, and as you saw as I was clicking through, what we settled on our damage dealing source, which is our Bone Mages. We wanted them to do 40% increase more damage as they remain alive, because this is a multiplicative stat on top of other multiplicative stats, which are going to be ginormous for them. And so they hurt themselves when they deal damage. So we need to mitigate that. Well, how do we mitigate that? We use Ray Skeleton as it heals them for the duration over 5 seconds when we consume a corpse with the spell after having maximum number of skeletons. So now we're left with the question of how do we create corpses? Well, there was a few ways we could have created corpses. There was a skill in the skill tree called Hewed Flesh, which gave our damage a chance to spawn corpses. Of course, enemies being defeated spawn corpses, except for like flies. And there wasn't really too many other ways. You'll notice we'll take Blood Mist that gives us a corpse, and we can also use Army of the Dead to just raise everything up, and then also leave behind corpses. So that was something that we wanted to look into. Well, there was actually a really good solution because initially the Reapers were, doing a big swing, and I wanted more of it to happen. But they simply just have a 50% chance to always create a corpse for you every single time they attack. This is an amazing battery to keep your mages alive and keep them dealing damage. And that brings us to the Blood Golem. Well, we don't really need more damage now that we already have our damage dealing source. So what better way to use the Golem, because we need to have them out for the Cult Leader Mastery, than to take less damage. This makes the build incredibly tanky as well, just from baseline stats. Now going over that, the next thing I wanted to just give an overview of was how we went through the skill tree. I basically used the keyword minion to find everything that had anything to deal with minions. Basically selected it, tested it, and see how it worked. And as we go through the actual skill tree, we will talk more about it. But there were a few key things that stand out that had nothing to do with minions, which were how to create corpses, like I mentioned earlier. We wanted a source of vulnerability, so we have a few sources of vulnerability. And some extra defense, and crit chance without spending any essence, because Season 1, the Great Feast, does consume all of our essence. There are a lot of minions. It takes a great toll on our essence. We want to play without it, basically. Some quick touches on the Paragon. You want to basically rush up to Cult Leader, snagging as many glyph slots along the way. I would recommend just getting some damage reduction for your minions with a custody, and then rushing up here. Make sure you're going for the mage one next, and then we'll have everything you need in the actual build guide here for the whole Paragon setup. It is all scoped out for you, so once you get the mage glyph, it's free for all. Make sure you do what you want to do. Okay, so that kind of gives up the overview here. We have some key powers like raised skeleton, or aspect of animation, aspect of plunging darkness, and aspect of grasping veins, as well as the viscous aspect, more mages, and a couple damage reduction ones as well. So those are the very brief overview. We're going to go much more in depth here in a moment. Touching on everything else, I just wanted to show you some of that, and let's get into some gameplay footage. So here we have some overview about the gameplay. We're going to go ahead and look at some of the things here. One quick thing I want to mention is I have Decrepify on my bar because I was testing the Deviant Malignant Heart to see if it stopped the resource drain for the Great Feast. It does not have any impact whatsoever, it seems like. I don't know if that's because it's an additive multiplier, not a multiplicative one, but it doesn't seem like it does anything. The highest I can get was 98% before the making of this video, so if you have a 100% one and you can confirm, please let me know. I would love to update this video and give that information out to everyone. So, as you can see, what we're going through and doing for our rotation is we're just generating some corpses. We are casting Raised Skeleton to maintain that buff. We are applying vulnerable damage. We're pixel stacking everything with grasping veins, and then we're casting the Bone Prison to put that pool of blight on the ground. These are some key factors here that make all of our damage do a multiplier on top of a multiplier on top of a multiplier. And the cherry on top, you'll notice, like I just did here, you'll notice that I go stand near my mages because we want that perfect key passive of the, not the key passive, sorry, because that's Shadow Blight, but there's a essential passive called Hellbent Commander. And Hellbent Commander is a 30% multiplicative damage increase while standing near your minions. And so you want to stand near your damage dealers, your skeletal mages. You'll notice I'll walk back to them from time to time when I am done setting up the mobs how we need them to be, just to add on that little bit of damage. You'll notice that in my tier 97 video. You'll notice that in my Varshan video that I did. You'll notice that that is one of the core gameplay mechanics, because we're going to take that on our necklace, and our necklace is going to give us 3 more ranks of that, which is 30% increase more damage. Overall, this is giving us 60% multiplicative damage. A little lag spike there. This is a hardcore character, by the way, so that's a little terrifying. But you'll notice that gives us 60% multiplicative damage. So this is a level 67. I've been doing a little bit of playing, wrapping up some of my other clips here, and I've seen upwards of 60,000 hits from a single mage, which means that there's 6 of them. We're doing 360,000 damage with our mages when they're attacking after the setup has been done at a very fast pace, while the monsters can't even get to us. If they're hitting us with range attacks, we're extremely tanky. We have Blood Mist to get out of everything that we need to, and the Golem does pretty decent AoE damage. And so these are the core rotations, core mechanics, core buffs, and some of the things that we have for our gameplay feature here. Now, one thing I do want to talk about are the strengths and weaknesses. So this comes with a lot of strengths. You get to literally stand there and do nothing except hit one button like Raised Skeleton from time to time. You'll get a big power spike, and then your mages will be one-shotting everything, and it's very nice. We'll take that, and then we'll do the opposite end of it, right? Sometimes your minions may not be strong enough, and it takes them collectively to take down something very powerful. And you have to really master the art of keeping your minions alive, keeping them out of things like Frozen, like you're seeing here on the screen. Keeping them in the fight, not being feared constantly. So there's a number of downsides to the minions of not being able to really control them. And you'll see that here in some of the gameplay. And some of my other videos, you'll see them being decimated by things like poison, Fire enchanted suppressor is a very annoying one. You have to drag your mages into them, and so there are some downsides to this build. But overall, I say once you get used to your playstyle, some of the benefits start to shine through. So things like just being able to stand there, previously mentioned, very low actions per minute when you really get down to some things. You get some really good powers coming through. You'll notice like I don't even know what's happening half the time. I'm trying to curse something and it's dead already. Things of that nature. And so those are some of the really good positives here. The minions essentially play the game for you as it should be for a minion build. They're very powerful, very strong. And if we get any way to control them, that will be a fantastic sentiment and addition. Now, we'll let this footage wrap up here so you can see the last bit here. These all drop tier 5 hearts, the best way to, and most consistent way to get them, and then poof, get something that's difficult and it just dies instantly. So we'll move on to the complete overview now. So we'll be dropping a link for you to look at this build as much as you want. You can create a copy of it, edit it how you see fit. But this is my best findings for our Season 1 minionmancer build with all of the hearts laid out here for you and all of the aspects as well. So something else that really adds into the benefits here is I forget that I'm playing on hardcore sometimes, and that's also good and bad. But the build is inherently tanky with our armor stats, our attributes, our armor that we get from the Paragon board, the fact that our minions can actually take aggro if you're standing far enough away, and you're not really worried about those mobs mostly hitting you. That stockpile corpses, you pull things together, you're raising skeletons. It is a fantastic playstyle. Things like the Butcher will still run right through your minions and go for you. There are a few mobs at higher tiers that will also do that, so it's not all rainbows and sunshine. But for the most part, your minions can actually take aggro from you once you get a feeling for how that works. We'll say relying on your minions can be a bit worrisome. They deal great damage, like we mentioned. But pretty much the next thing here are the hearts. So with the hearts, with things like this, the Great Feast, my minions are hitting for almost 60,000 at level 66 and 67. This is a fraction of the power you get through level 21 glyphs and the rest of the Paragon board that you have active, which my level 100 Necromancer has with almost an identical build. And it's, they're doing like 100k, but we're talking after, tens of days of playing. So you're talking about 200 plus hours. You're able to get to that power. This has it at level 60. We're talking 2 days. You sit down for 2 days, you get here, and you're good. 2 days game played, sorry. There was a lot of effort going into this. The XP has slowed really down. But they shine right through. The Deviant Heart here, called, I believe it's Termination. This doesn't work with the Great Feast, unfortunately. Like I mentioned earlier, it does not stop the drain, so we are now using the Decrepit Aura, so that while we're running through everything, we're just kind of giving ourselves the Decrepify effect, which we'll be picking up in the skill tree. So, some of the more important aspects that we have here that you can get from dungeons. Reanimation is available in Skazglen. We have Grasping Veins, which is available in Kyrgyzstan. Viscous and Bloodgetters can be rolled for by obols. You can spam roll on the boots to get these. Plunging Darkness is available from Fractured Peaks. Disobedience is available from Hall of the Damned. And that's pretty much some key things. So you want to get Disobedience, Grasping Veins, Reanimation, and Plunging Darkness, and you have the essentials for this build, which means that there is absolutely no point in the game where you cannot play this build, and that is a large check in the pro column for me. It is very friendly to get the aspects you need to make this build turn online. Some of the more key ones, like Protecting Aspect, this just makes it so you don't get one shot every 90 seconds. It's very good, very useful. You want to focus on getting boots first so that you can get the extra mages. This is super important. And Shielding Storm is a great additive, but this is completely up to you. If you get a Shaco, throw it on, it doesn't matter. The Shielding Storm is just for an extra barrier, again helping you not get one shot. These can be either emeralds or skulls, and we are taking revenge for 20% more damage reduction. Gone over this already, but I'll do it one more time here for completion's sake. We're doing Reapers for corpses, Bone Mages for damage, and 15% reduced damage from your Golem because it's going to take the damage for you. We have all the gear stats laid out for you here. You will become extremely tanky if you focus on getting total armor where you can get it. So your helmet, your chest, your pants, and your amulets, get total armor on them. Get total armor, you're not going to die. Let's hope they fix resistances, but for now, this is where we are at with it. When you're scoping out items, you can get things like all stats here on the weapon. Damage over time, that's fine. It does not really matter. All stats might be better, but it does not really matter at the end of the day. Vulnerable damage is still your number one source because anything that is applied to the enemy itself is going to give your minions the full value, which is an amazing multiplier. So things like your vulnerable damage is going to be a multiplicative for their damage at the full value. Talking about the Hellbent Commander earlier, this is where you get more of those ranks. And then you're just taking damage reduction and max life for everything you can, giving yourself some more additive damage with skill damage. And then, of course, CDR, because we have to take non-essence using moves, but now we want cooldown reduction more than ever. Okay, moving on to the skill tree. These are 2 throwaway points, put them in your favorite skill. Does not matter. We're taking Blight literally only to get this. That's why we're taking Huge Flesh to have more corpse being generated. Your minions are going to do 15% multiplicative more damage. Blood Mist is our Unstoppable. It is our get out of jail free card. And it is our way to generate corpses if you do die and you need a way to respawn your minions. You can just sit back and generate a couple Reapers and have those Reapers make you corpses, and then you can go on with your day. Skeletal Warrior Mastery, pretty apparent, just to keep them alive. We're taking Bone Prison to proc Plunging Darkness to spawn a pool of Blight, which then procs the Supernatural Blight. It can pull everything in if you use the aspect of the Void, and it also can give us vulnerability while it's active. Permanent vulnerability is good, and just having them up for 6 seconds is even better. We're taking Decrepify for the cooldown effect and the damage reduction. You can not really a way to get more points in this right now with the current state of this build. But essentially we're doing Skeletal Mages, for this is our damage source. This is a multiplicative one that's very good. This amplified damage is actually being applied as a debuff to the targets, so this is a full value increase, unlike Fueled by Death for your minions. Fueled by Death is a 30% increase because it's just a multiplier on your sheet damage, and then the sheet damage is getting calculated to your minions. So this is much better than, amplified damage is much better than Fueled by Death. This is damage reduction and a little bit of damage, but we don't care about the damage. Damage reduction is key for this one. We're taking Corpse Tendrils just to make them vulnerable and to have another grouping tool. Minion healing, minion attack speed, minion damage reduction so they can't die in one shot, and massive buff to their damage when you were standing near them. More damage in life for your golem. Bone Storm for Bone Storm things. Damage reduction, and critical strike chance. And then this is also for more minion damage because we are going to be taking aspect of, I have Frenzy Dead here, but it's supposed to be Ultimate Shadow, so we'll change that real quick for you guys. Again, this will be fully updated here. The Ultimate Shadow will also proc Shadow Blight. See, we all make mistakes, but that's okay. And as for the Paragon board, I want to go in a little bit more depth here for you guys. Because I don't have a great tool to really show you the path. So I want to use this video to kind of give you a path, at the risk of making it a bit too long. So when you're starting out, don't fill in all these little side things you see. There's a clear-cut path you want to do. You want to go up here and you want to get Amplify. You want to put this, whatever glyph you have in while you have it, change it to Amplify later down the road, but then just go up either damage or armor, whichever you feel you need the most. If you're dying a lot, maybe armor. If you need more damage or you're not dying, then I would go up damage. This is up to you. It does not matter. You want to rush up to this glyph socket going up here. You can avoid this extra 5%. and you can put in Dead Razor. Dead Razor has to go here. When you get Dead Razor, put it in immediately. Get yourself some more damage reduction for your minions. It is infinitely better and makes it so much more playable. Once you get this, just ignore the minion damage. This is additive. It will be good later, but not right now. And just bum rush your way up here. Avoid any, just taking 1, 2, 3, and just keep going this way up to Cult Leader. This is a massive, massive, massive damage increase early on in the game. So you want to make sure you're snagging this as soon as possible. Once you grab Cult Leader, make your way up through the Skeletal Mage buffs here. Ignore this extra one for now, and get yourself over to the Mage Glyph here. Put this socket in, and before you go crazy filling this bad boy out, this is additive damage, unfortunately, meaning it is not as good as we think it is, but it is the best we can put in this slot. So after we get this, we want to circle back here, and we want to get Fueled by Death. Flesh Eater. Fueled by Death, I believe, is the passive on the skill tree. But Flesh Eater gives us 40% multiplicative damage. This is an insane amount. This plus Fueled by Death gives you even larger amount, almost a 50% increase on all of your damage, which is amazing, because they are both multipliers. So once you have these nodes done, you want to fill out Mage, and from here it is a free-for-all for you. Go over here and get Scent of Death if you want, get the Glyph socket if you want this one just to be done over here. You could also go and get the Exploit Glyph right after you finish up with the Mages and Flesh Eater. It is all up to you after this point. Just take Defense if you feel like you're dying for these defensive nodes, or take Offense if you feel like you just want more damage and can progress with your character all the way up to level 100. But those are my recommendations for the Paragon board. Now, I do have some notes for you guys here. We have some links if you want to follow any of my content that I make regularly about Diablo 4. And we're doing other games as well, but for now it's just Diablo 4. I have a little bit written out for you if you're not using Season 1. Use skulls in your jewelry. Ring of Men Down is, in fact, a good alternative for one of your ring slots. It's just a flat damage upgrade. You just get more damage for just doing stuff that you're already doing. And then Plunging Darkness will actually give you a 100% chance to proc Ring of Men Down. I think it's still bugged. If it's not bugged, then it's intended, and that's a good thing. But regardless, either way, using Bone Prism with Plunging Darkness will give you guaranteed critical hits, and that is quite amazing. So 10 of 10 would recommend that as well. I would say that you can probably, either just get rid of Ultimate Shadow. It's not a big deal. You could change Ultimate Shadow or Grasping Vein for this one, but again, these notes will be updated for you when this video goes live. Alright, so that wraps up everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I want to say that I think that this build is going to have an extremely high ceiling for the endgame. I think you're going to be able to take this build into Nightmare Dungeon 100 with enough practice and absolutely destroy it. You can see me do it on the Tier 97 video out of the season. So if I can do it out of the season with 100% less multiplicative damage, you can do it in this season. Absolutely no-brainer. Just absolutely decimating everything with the correct gear. And I think that the tankiness carries its weight. You get about 9,000 armor after the nerfs. I'm at 6,200 right now after the nerfs, so you just keep on chugging along, getting all that extra armor through the Paragon board as you level up. This is going to be one of the best builds in Season 1, I do believe. And I want to say that the minions do have the damage for these high-end content. I don't know about Uber Lilith yet. Don't quote me on that one. I think Uber Lilith is just a bit too strong for our minion friends. She one-shots you with most attacks regardless, so she's gonna one-shot them. It's not rocket science to figure out. So until that gets sorted out, then we probably won't be able to do Uber Lilith with this, but you can definitely handle the Nightmare Tier 100. Not being able to control them feels a little off, and because of that, we give a final ranking of 9 out of 10. I do believe this is a fantastic build for the season, and if you are looking to play Necromancer, I would highly recommend this build through your entire the entire time you're playing the game. And with that said, that wraps up this video. please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if it is something that has helped you out today, or if you just want to help me, support me with it. I do stream over at twitch.tv/Jacket, so check that out as well. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.